I just want to do a quick overview of how to run this thing, this Django Indy Community on your local. There's a demo on there already. It comes with a built-in demo, so you should just be able to install it and run it from Docker. And there's instructions in the Docker folder. So I will just do a quick run through of installing it and then running it, and then just show you where some of the configuration options are. So there's instructions for running it with Docker. So you just git clone. There's two projects you need: Vaughan Network, which is the Indy network, and then the Django Indy Community, which is this demo. The instructions aren't completely correct, so I need to fix them, but I'll just show you exactly what you need to do. First of all, just open up a couple of command shells. So you'll need two, one for Vaughan Network and one for the Indy Community. And what I'll do is I'll just grab all of these commands and just copy them all into the shell. And then that does a git clone, builds the Vaughan network, and then starts it up. So that, it ran pretty quickly, but I've already got everything installed on my machine. When you do it, it'll take a little bit longer to download all the different Docker pieces. And then basically I do the same thing with this project. So I clone it, I cd into the directory, oops, Django. If I'm running on a Unix system, then I need to run this command. This makes all the files read-writable. On a Mac, you don't need to do it. On a Unix system, you do. And the reason you do is because the Docker image runs the software, but the code is actually mounted on your local machine, so that you can edit the code and then the Docker will pick it up. You need to cd into the Docker directory. If you want to build the Docker images, you can build the Docker images. You don't have to because they're published, just publish Docker images. And then you just say manage start. And this starts up the software that needs to start up. So there's three pieces that start up here. One of them is the wallet, which the wallets run on Postgres. So it creates the wallets on Postgres database. So it runs a Postgres image. It runs the dummy cloud agent because it uses the VCX agent. So it runs a dummy cloud agent to handle the VCX. I'm actually in the middle of upgrading this from VCX to the Python agent that the BC government has written, but right now it's VCX. And then the third one is the actual Django application. And what it does when it starts up, it creates the environment from scratch. So it rebuilds the database. So it starts with a clean database. And then it creates the organizations. So it creates wallets and bids for a set of organizations. And then it also loads schemas, and it creates some credential definitions for the organizations. And where it does that, I'll show you where those files are because you can configure those. If you look in the Indy Community demo folder, there's a couple of YAML files. There's the trustee org. So you have to create a trustee who's got the rights to actually create bids and schemas and so forth. So we create the first company, which has the role that can create all the other stuff. And then the second thing is it creates the schemas. So it's a simple format. There's a schema, we auto-generate the version number, and then it's just a list of attributes. And what we do is we assign it to a role. So the schema has a role associated with it. There's a bunch of schemas that we create, and then we also create some default proof requests. The application can use these just to make it easier for building proof requests or for going through that kind of data flow. And then the third YAML file is the orgs. And the orgs are organizations, and each organization has a role. And then what the application does when it starts up is that if the role matches the schema, then it creates a credential definition. So you can see in the startup, when it creates the organization, I don't know if it actually logs it. It shows creating the organization. It doesn't show creating the credential definitions, but it creates the credential definition. And you can see how it does that if you look in Docker compose.yaml file. So it does everything based on the Docker compose. And when it starts it, it runs these commands. So it reload DB, reloads the database, init data, loads those YAML files. So you can see exactly how that works. And then it starts the main Django process, and then it starts a background process. So if you have questions about that, you can ask. So anyway, then you can see when the Docker files are running. It says app is ready, and then you just open it up on localhost 8000. And when you run it on localhost 8000, it gives you opportunities to log in as individual and organization. To log in as an organization, the organization logins are also in the YAML files, so they're configured. What it does is it sets up a login per organization. So if you pick an organization, like let's say you want to be the government, then you're logging in as bc@mail.com, and this is the password. And then to log in as an individual, there's a couple of options. Because we're running with VCX, you can connect from a mobile device if you have the mobile software that can talk to VCX, like connect.me, which is an Evernum application. You log in. I will do a test login here. I'm not going to run it because I don't have the actual software installed and ready to go right now. Pick an organization, let's say the BC government, do the request, and then what it does is it sets up a mobile QR code. So if I have connect.me installed, if everything's connected to the sovereign network, if I do a mobile connect, the connect.me can scan that QR code, then it'll connect to the agent on my mobile device. Otherwise, if I don't have that, then connected as BC here because I'm already logged in. I need to go into a different browser. So I'll do that. I will create a user account. I'll create Ian Costanzo. Eventually, this will be a two-phase login where it sends me an email, confirm the email before I can log in. So I'll just log in. You can customize this if you want to. And then I'm logged in. So I'm logged in as Ian. I'm logged in as BCGov to actually exchange credentials. So this is the mobile test that I just demonstrated. So if I want to send a connection invite to Ian, then I can do it just by sending it directly to the email. Or options are I can send this content and then type that in as I accept it, or I can scan a mobile. So there's different ways that you can establish connections. This now shows as an outstanding pending connection. If I log in as Ian now, I can respond, or I can, if I'm mobile, I can ask for a QR code if I want to scan it on my mobile device. And I'll just respond and say yes. And the UI, it's a demonstration UI, so I mean, feel free to modify it as you see fit. The connection will show as connected, and then I can either send a credential or a proof request. So to send an identity credential, I can send a passport or a driver's license. If I pick passport, it shows me all the fields. I'm just going to type in crap just so I can get through this one in real life. Maybe for the age, I'll type in 39, and the rest of it, and I'll just type in garbage. That's my passport. I issue the passport, and then it goes through the passport process where this shows up as a, see, it shows up under conversations, it's pending, it should show up under here. I can accept it, shows me what it's trying to send me, I accept it. And then eventually the request goes back and forth. It has to come back to here where the BC government then issues the credential. So if updated, it's now issued. Eventually it'll come through here, it's completed, and then it'll show up as a credential in my wallet. Again, it's a demonstration interface, so there's not a lot of formatting. But then once that has been done, then I can send a proof request. And the way the proof requests work is there's just some kind of dummy content in here. It'll ask me first name, last name. It automatically puts in my issuer did, but if you're familiar with how proof requests work, you can change the restrictions to do whatever you want. You can do it by schema or credential definition or whatever. You have to put in a value here. So let's say 18. I'll send that. And then this should come through as another conversation. And then I can supply the proof of age. It asks me what credentials I want. There's only one credential for each of the things that it's asking me for, so I can pick that. If there's multiple, then it'll list them and let me pick which one I want to include. I send the proof back. And then from the BC government point of view, it shows up as a verified proof. And then it gives me a link to all the detailed crypto stuff that's in the proof. So that's kind of the basics of how the application works. So you should just be able to start it up from Docker, and then it's pre-configured with a bunch of organizations and schemas and so forth. What I would suggest is there's another repository here called Indy Community Demo. And what this does is it's just the demo part of it. So you can do exactly the same thing here. You can check this out. You can run it from Docker. What this one does is it has the Django Indy Community framework. Rather than running it all on the local drive, it's packaged as a Python module and then loaded in one of the Docker containers. So depending on if you think you're going to need to modify the core framework or not, I wouldn't recommend it because, like I say, I am upgrading it to use the BC Province of British Columbia agent rather than BCX. So if you build the demo, then if you make changes to the framework, then you'll probably lose all those changes if you try and upgrade to the new version. But that should get you up and running quickly, and then once you've got it up and running, then you can play around with it and do whatever you like.